We're now live.
This evening will be starting shortly. We want to make sure that folks still have a chance to join before we start the presentation. Thank you. Our staff is still helping a few of your neighbors join the meeting, so we would like to give them a couple more minutes. Thank you. There was a request that we do a sound check. This is a test. If there's any problem with the sound, please send your message through the chat. Thank you.
Sonia, I think we should go ahead and start.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sonia Ewing. I am from the Prince George's County Parks Department. I am Assistant Division Chief for our Park Planning and Development Division. We are here today with a number of staff, including our staff from our Public Affairs and Marketing Division, helping us with the publishing of this event, and Mr. Don Herring, the Southern Area Planner. Before Don jumps into the presentation, I again want to thank you for your patience. Believe it or not, we've done this before, but we had some licensing challenges today with sending out the invites in the Microsoft rules. So we had to figure out that workaround. Thank you for taking the time to join us. And two, we want to thank you for participating in this process. We are also going to send out a phone number that folks that may not be able to join this meeting via Teams live on their computer can join us via phone. And following the presentation, the PowerPoint and the information that we give out tonight will be available on our Department of Parks and Recreation website. We will Don will give a short presentation, give you an understanding of the status of where we are as of today, and then we will follow that with a question and answer period. You can enter your questions into the chat box. A member of our team will be able to see them, share them with Don or I, and then we will respond to you via the presentation. So the chat is the way to communicate. And finally, we've had a series of meetings since we last met, both internally and externally. And as you know, this project is one that has been challenging for us. Although we are very, I think, proud of the product that we are bringing, we felt like we had to really thread the needle to meet the intentions of the folks who sat down at the table when the Canter Creek development was an idea with the developer, and request their needs for the community overall in the surrounding areas. And then also to be respectful and respond to your needs as newer residents in the Canter Creek neighborhood. And so hopefully today you'll see that we've heard you. We've taken into account your letters, the conversations that we've had, along with our meetings and the meetings and conversations that we've had with your neighbors in the larger surrounding community. And with that, I'm going to end it again with thank you for participating, because it is very important. And then I'm going to toss it to Mr. Don Herring.
Thank you, Sonia. Good evening, and once again, my name is Don Herring. I'm the park planner for the southern area of Prince George's County, Maryland. I'm delighted to be with you all this evening, and we appreciate you all attending this virtual community meeting. Just to go through the agenda for this evening, I will just discuss the project background and touch on the park planning process, as well as how the Canter Creek community ties into the Subregion 6 master plan and the 50-acre floating park symbol that was associated with that plan. Also, I'll touch on the community engagement with the community in Canter Creek, as well as the community at large. And then I will shift into the project description and discuss some of the proposed amenities for the park in your community, along with the site orientation. Next, I will go into the design update and discuss the proposed park in more detail.
Don, can we hold for 1 second? I apologize. We're getting a couple of notes in the chat that folks aren't able to hear. If you are able to hear, if you could please drop that in the chat. We're not sure if it's folks' individual systems at home, or if we have a number of people who cannot hear that we've begun the presentation. So thank you. If you can let us know if you're able to hear. And if not, someone said they heard a sound check and then it went silent. So it's interesting. I'm in my head is going, mic check, mic check. Can anyone hear us? Possibly. Let's see what we can do. If the person who's on the PowerPoint, if they can maybe type a note in the PowerPoint, that might be helpful. Oh, people say they can hear. A number of people say they can hear. So if maybe we can post the phone number for everyone to see in the chat, then maybe we can pick back up where we left off. Maybe we can put this phone number on the first page of the slides and then give people a moment to call in. Because we are trying our best not to leave anyone behind.
So Sonia, you want to put the phone number in?
Yeah, if you can put the phone number on that first slide, just type it in.
Yes.
And then that way we can spend a second there, and the folks who haven't been able to hear will be able to hear. Some people say they believe we're still muted, but then other people say that we can't hear. And so we was
So so someone says they can hear you clearly. Several people are saying I can hear. Sound is good.
We have about half and half from the notes that I've gotten. Had about 4 that said they couldn't hear. One very recently that said, I believe you're still muted. Don, maybe you should talk, and they'll really know if anyone's saying anything.
Okay, good evening, Don Herring. This is a test. This is a test. Can anyone hear me?
There is a tab that people want to make people aware of, that they may be muting themselves with the speaker not and muting their sounds. They may be putting their own sounds on mute. Okay.
I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, if we can post the phone number, I think that would be the best that we can do.
They can hear you. People say they can hear you, and the sound is fine, and they have sound now. I think they were just muting themselves. So let's keep proceeding. I will start to share the presentation again.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
No worries.
Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's go.
All right. Good evening once again. Don Herring, Park Planner for the Southern area of Prince George's County. Delighted to be with you all this evening, and I hope that everything is okay with you and your families. Tonight's agenda, just wanted to touch on the project background, including the park planning process. I'll also touch base on the Subregion 6 Master Plan study and how it relates to the Canter Creek community, as well as the community engagement that was involved in the project. Then I will move on to a project description and talk briefly about the proposed amenities as well as the site orientation. Then I will go into our design update to share with you our proposed park based on all the feedback we received from your community. And then I will go into the next steps before opening it up to questions and answers. Next slide, please. In terms of background, going into the park planning process, just for information, as far as the park system in Prince George's County, Maryland, our parks are started through the master plan process, and that's how we determine how many acres are needed to serve the community. And so the Subregion 5 master plan that covers the Upper Marlboro area included a 50-acre floating park symbol. And so what a floating park symbol consists of is it puts a circle over a geographical area where we think additional recreational amenities are needed in that to serve that area. And so that particular 50-acre floating park symbol was placed in close proximity to your Canter Creek community. So the developer of Canter Creek dedicated 25 acres of land in accordance with the mandatory dedication process to go towards this 50-acre floating park symbol requirement in the master plan. A lot of citizens in the area had expressed concern that, based on the development activity in the area, that additional land was needed for parks and recreation and open space. So we looked at the level of service and engaged the community to see and looked also at the adjacent parks in the vicinity to make sure that we were planning the correct amenities for this park that would be open to your community and the greater public. So we actually had several community meetings. This project dates back many years ago. And in fact, the actual agreement that we entered into with the developer dates back to probably 2014 or 2015. And so our first meeting with the community was in November of 2016, and we shared a park concept that consisted of a 50-space parking lot, a playground, and a football soccer field. And so at that community meeting, which at the time there weren't many citizens residing in Canter Creek that attended the meeting, but there were also members there from the surrounding communities of Williamsburg Estates and Brookwood Holloway. It became apparent that in addition to the facilities that we were proposing, there was also a desire for trails in the park, as well as a picnic pavilion and basketball courts. So we actually, shortly after that, in the 2017, 2018 timeframe, we secured the services of an architect to start designing the park for us to include those facilities. We had a subsequent meeting in September of 2019, and prior to that meeting, we had received quite a bit of correspondence and feedback from the Canter Creek residents, expressing concern that they didn't have as much input in the process, and also expressing concern about some of the amenities that were proposed regarding how it would impact traffic in the community and cause maybe even parking along Dressage Drive, where the actual 25-acre parcel is located. And so they were also concerned, concerns from your neighbors about, activities on a organized football or soccer field that's striped, and the amount of activity and volume that they could bring into your community. So we took all that into consideration, in addition to the feedback we received from the community at large. Next slide. This is a map of Service Area 9, our Formula 2040 Functional Master Plan for Parks and Recreation, divided the county into 9 service areas. And so Canter Creek falls within Service Area 9. The orange parcels on this map reflect the developed parks around your community. The light blue reflects the conservation area near your community, and then the yellow are all the undeveloped parks, which Canter Creek is showing is undeveloped right now. Next slide, please. This is a zoomed in view of the service area and an aerial view that shows the Canter Creek community encircled in red, and it has a outer ring in purple of a 1 mile radius to kind of give you an idea of the communities that are located around the Canter Creek community. What this slide doesn't show is the actual 50-acre floating park symbol that was part of the Subregion 6 master plan, just a little bit to the west of the Canter Creek location. Oh, there it is, like magic, it appeared. So you can see how close it was in terms of the location. And essentially what a floating park symbol is, it doesn't necessarily designate a parcel, but it does speak to a general area of where the park should go. Next slide. Thank you. So as part of the project description, as I mentioned, in trying to develop a community park in correlation to the Subregion 6 master plan, some of the proposed amenities that we have planned consist of a terrace, a playground, a parking lot, open space for unstructured play, and we have play courts, as well as the loop trail. So these features still remain per the community's requests. In terms of site orientation, just wanted to point out that you see your community park encircled in red, and there's a vegetated area to the north. That is a woodland preservation area that consists of approximately 11 acres that must remain intact. So we have approximately 14 acres to develop in this in this community, in your community. On the outer edge of your community, to the west and to the, I guess, the south and east, is the Piscataway Creek Stream Valley Park. And so the developer also dedicated 120 acres of parkland to us in those areas. And a future equestrian trail will be built in that location. Next slide, please. This is a view of the proposed park that we wanted to share with you all this evening. As you can see, Dressage Drive kind of comes in on to the south of the actual park itself. As I mentioned, it's a 25-acre parcel. You can see the vegetated woodland preservation area. When you enter into the actual park, it's a half moon parking lot for egress and ingress. The actual parking lot area was designed to accommodate emergency vehicles. Just to the west of the parking lot, and with letter C is labeled on the map, is a multi-use playground area, and to the right of that, labeled as E, is a terrace area. And so one thing we meant when we listened to the community through correspondence in the meetings, you mentioned that you did not want to have a pavilion area, and so this area now is just a terrace area that will have some site furniture for seating. There are no grills as part of this plan as well. There's a small bio retention area to the right of that. Then you have the loop trail that kind of encircles the smaller area of the park, and then it goes around the larger open space for unstructured play, which is labeled as B. That area, that field will not be striped, so it will not have organized play on it. It's just an informally used field, but you also have trail connections to the community. And so this plan indicates a 25-space parking lot, because since the area is not permitted in terms of a pavilion or field, we felt that the parking lot did not need to be expanded any larger than it is. And there still should not be any parking along Dressage Drive impacting the community. The plan also includes play courts labeled as D, just to the north of the vegetated area in the west, in the east of the trail, the larger trail loop. And so what we envisioned for this actual area were just youth sports courts consisting of two half-court back-to-back courts that will be lowered to a height of 8 feet for youth play. So they will adjust it for lower height for that the youth to engage and be involved with sports there. There's also a stormwater management facility, and then we also have vegetated areas planned to buffer the houses that back to the park for separation. Next slide. This is just an image of what the playground will look like once constructed. As you can see, striking colors, multiple slides. It'll accommodate ages 2 to 12, so this is a multi-age playground. Next slide. Just an image of a trail, just to let you know, we've had a major uptick, as you could imagine, in trail use in our park system based on COVID-19. So we're always excited to see the park patrons getting out there and using our trails. So we expect to see some happy faces in your community as well. Next slide. This is just to give you an idea of what the back-to-back half courts will look like. It's not a true depiction of the adjustable hoops that will be lowered to the 8-foot height for the youth, but just wanted to give you an idea of what it looks like from having that back-to-back half court. So in terms of next steps, the next step in the process would be the mandatory referral process. And so right now that date has not been scheduled, but we're looking at sometime towards the latter portion of this year. Followed by the mandatory referral, we will complete our construction documents and permitting, and then move on from that point, which will probably happen towards the winter of this year, early spring of next year. And then construction start, we'd anticipate after bidding the project would be sometime in the summer of 2021. It will take approximately a year to complete, so we're looking at a construction completion of summer of 2022. So that concludes my presentation. And I thank you for your time. We will open it up for questions and answers.
So Don, can
Yes.
everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So one of the questions in the chat is, can you please provide a definition description of the play court? So do you have a deeper description of that?
Deeper description of the play court. Good question. I'm trying to see where we have adjustable courts that exist. Oh, go ahead, Sonia.
So that came in, Don, prior to your photos and description. That was just when the site plan is up. I think that your description was probably adequate. It's the back-to-back youth half-court basketball depiction that was similar to what was in the photograph. Will be in that site located with the letter D.
Okay, thank you, Sonia.
Don, another question from the chat is, how did you come up with the 25 spaces as the number of spaces needed?
That's another great question. Initially, we had 50 spaces allocated to kind of accommodate the permitted field use. But we realized quickly that we did not need 50 spaces based on it being non-permitted. Our parks open at dawn and close at dusk. This will also, and I failed to mention this, this is going to be a non-lighted facility. So there will be no activity at the park after dusk. So we felt that 25 spaces would be enough to accommodate the public for the daytime use of this facility.
Another question is, did we complete a traffic and environmental impact study?
A traffic and environmental impact study.
Yes.
There was no traffic impact. I'm sorry. There was no traffic impact study done for the actual park. Dressage Drive was designed to accommodate emergency vehicle traffic, as well as the park was designed to accommodate it. And so there were really no other requirements in terms of traffic going to the park. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The original site plan that was submitted in the application, along with the homes in this phase of development, included the park, and the entire site plan had a traffic impact study done as a part of that work. And that plan included actually more intense development in the park that was originally intended. And so the adaptations to the plan that we've done based upon your feedback have actually lessened the density and intensity and the traffic use. And so that's how we responded with the parking and with the overall design. The environmental assessment happens in a couple different places. The first is with that development site plan that was approved originally. And then secondarily, as we go through the mandatory referral process, this proposal will get a second review. And staff in our Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission Planning Department environmental section will have an opportunity to review and comment.
So there are a couple questions related to the basketball courts, and I'll just summarize them quickly, and you guys can respond accordingly. One is, if the basketball courts can be adjusted down to 8 feet, can they be adjusted up? And if so, who can make the adjustments? Have the basketball courts at Rosaryville Elementary been removed? And you keep saying adjustable court. What keeps the older kids from adjusting to regulation height?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can speak to the adjustable height. The only ones that will be able to adjust the height for those goals are our maintenance department. So they will not be able to be adjusted by anybody in the community or any kids in the area. So Now I can't speak to the courts at Rosaryville Elementary School. I don't have any information on those, so I apologize for that.
Then another question is, was consideration of a community garden or water feature considered?
We did not consider a community garden or water feature. In addition to those requests, someone had also inquired about a dog park, and so we knew that the concerns typically with dog parks, we would kind of put them along a major artery because we don't want to draw too large of a crowd to that amenity, especially in the southern area right now. We're still trying to get our first dog park constructed. But similarly with the water feature and aquatics, we looked at the fact that the Southern Area Aquatics and Recreation Complex is minutes away from you all. And we also realized that a pool would require staffing. So that would kind of exceed the budget as well. And so, yes, and so in terms of the community garden, we just did not see how we could accommodate that in addition to the additional features.
Another question is, will this park be considered closed at night? I believe the answer is yes.
Yes. And there will be park signage up at the entrance to the park as well, speaking to that.
Can the entrance be on Frank Tippett? Will there be bathrooms in the park?
No bathrooms, no restrooms at this park have been planned. And our only entrance is off of Dressage Drive from Frank Tippett Road.
And what's the difference between a terrace and a pavilion?
So, great question. So the terrace is just a hardscape, almost like a hardscape patio with no vertical structure on it, meaning no pavilion or anything vertical. It'll just have site furniture, areas for you to sit down.
I'm looking through the questions. Another one is, will the open space marked with the letter B be turned into some type of organized field in the future? So the open area, will it suddenly become like a football field in the future?
No, that field will remain as open space unless the community requests otherwise.
A question that's several people have asked is about a copy of the presentation. Will we post this on the website and they can access it from the website?
Yes.
Okay. How will the trash be managed?
Southern Area Maintenance Team, they will be responsible for managing all of the trash and keeping the site as tidy as possible. We want to continue to be good neighbors, and they're very responsive to the citizens whenever parks are located in their communities. So they will take care of the grounds, the mowing, trash removal, just all your general upkeep. When the trail, becomes a little worn, they'll address that with our maintenance and development division, and so we will make sure that this park remains in pristine condition.
Will there be park police patrol daily?
Our park police will definitely monitor this facility. They have a very large service radius that they serve, so it could be a situation where oftentimes just park in your parking lot just as a place to eat lunch or spend time there. And I know they want to get to know the community as well. So it will not be uncommon for you to see the park police on a regular basis.
What is site furniture?
So what we envision for site furniture would be picnic tables, possibly shaded with shaded structures on top to kind of keep you cool. No grills, just areas for you to, be at rest when you're at the park and you finish doing your walk or using some of the other amenities.
Was a tennis court considered instead of a basketball court?
That's a great question. No, that we looked at all amenities for the park, and basketball was the bigger push for this facility.
Another question that I just saw that I think I'm scrolling down to get there. So asking for clarity, are you saying that there will be no organized, with organized all capital letters, youth sports played in that space?
That's 100% accurate. Yes, no organized play. It's informal use only.
Next question is, so this is more of a playground than a sports park. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, we look at it as a community park, more so than a playground, because you have all these additional features once you arrive. And it's going to feel very much like a neighborhood park because it's off the beaten path of Frank Tippett Road, and it's walkable for you and your neighbors. So.
We answered about security. Will there be more? There's another security related question. Will there be more than 6 officers patrolling the Southern District of MNC-PPC as mentioned in the earlier meetings this year?
You know, I cannot speak to the number of patrols in terms of staff that are patrolling this particular area. I do know that we have, you know, other parks in close proximity to you all that they have to monitor as well. So I can imagine them, you know, going to your community with frequency, but I can't speak to the number of officers that will be patrolling.
What will be the name of the park?
Great question. So the name of the park is Canter Creek Park.
How far back will the park be from the homes on Dressage Drive?
That's a great question. I cannot recall offhand because there will be that vegetated buffer. And I'm sorry, I didn't measure the distance between the trail and the tree buffer in the back of the homes. I would imagine it's probably 20 or 30 feet or more of separation from that trail to the back of those houses.
Someone asked, can you speak to why about the decision to leave it unlit, the parking lot unlit? I believe that was the decision to leave the parking lot unlit.
So since our parks close at dusk, typically we do not light the parking lots unless the fields are lighted, and this park will not have a lighted field.
Fences, in regards to the question, the response about fences, meaning metal or wood between the park and homes, and if so, who will maintain the fences?
So right now, there's no plan to install any fencing between the back of the homes and the park. We do plan to do low-lying shrubs and vegetation or trees behind those homes to serve as a buffer.
With regard to the back, there's a question about the basketball courts at Rosa Revere Park at Holloway Estates. Those that court up there, and the goals have been removed. And is there a plan to put them back? So the answer for that one is they have been removed as a result of COVID. And the county executive currently has an order that limits certain games certain activities being played, and basketball is one of them at the moment. And so we've taken the rims down until we've gotten until the county executive makes the decision to move the county into phase 3 in terms of reopening, and she hasn't made that decision yet. With another question for you, Dawn, is what about signage? What will it look like?
So the park adjacent to, when you enter into the park, there will be a park sign as you enter into the facility along Dressage Drive. And then we will also have our park's rules signs up adjacent to that, kind of indicating, you know, that the park opens at dawn, it closes at dusk. The park is monitored by the park police. And it also will have information about, you know, control your dogs, no off leash animals here. So just typical verbiage like that as well.
And another question, this is related to the fence again, something that a resident inquired about. Could a fence be placed between the homes on Dressage Drive and the park? Again, he feels the community, this would help the community.
Okay. Well, as previously stated, right now we only have vegetation planned. I know some citizens may have already fenced their backyards, which is certainly an option as well, but we will definitely take that into consideration.
Someone asked, what community can request a change? I'm not quite sure I understand the question. I'm wondering if it's related to the basketball courts and whether or not anyone outside of Canter Creek could potentially ask for the courts to be raised or lowered. Can you speak to that? Can you share who would have the authority to make that request?
Well, sorry, I don't know if you want to speak to it, but I can speak. Well, go ahead.
So Don and our other park planners, we work with the community directly, and when we get requests for things that change the character of an area, we typically hold a community meeting to discuss those things, and work, you know, and try to work with folks to come with a shared solution that people feel good about. The great thing about the type of amenities like the courts that's adjustable is, although the park will be there, those type of amenities are things that can change over time to respond to the community needs. And it's not like we don't like step back and review how things are used and make improvements along the way. And so we will definitely be monitoring this, and we'll be available to take your input as you begin to use the facility when it comes online.
A couple more questions. One was, will the planned trail be similar to the size of the trail at Tanglewood Park?
So our trails, ideally, we'd like to have a 10-foot width, but definitely no less than 8 feet. I know the trail at Tanglewood kind of goes into the woods, and so the size may vary in certain locations, but this trail will be pretty open, and we want to have enough space such that people that are approaching each other are not on top of each other. And so that's why we say a minimum of 8 feet, but ideally 10 feet is the width we would like to see.
There are also homes bordering the park to the west, right?
Yes.
I think we answered this one, but I'm going to ask just to be safe. What is the distance of the park and parking lot from park entrance at Dressage? What is the distance of the park and parking lot from the entrance at Dressage?
Would you like to pull back up the site plan? We may not have measured distances to give you, but we know that a double loaded parking lot, so parking that faces one way, an aisle, and parking that faces the other way, is at least 60 feet. And so then we have a buffer on the edge of the road, and then some distance to the activities. And so that can kind of give you a sense when you see the site plan that we're probably at least 100 feet, I'm guessing, but definitely at least 60 feet, because the parking lot with one drive aisle, that is a standard measurement that we can kind of use as a basis.
And I don't know that I asked this question either, so I just want to circle back to be sure. Why couldn't a tennis court be considered instead of a basketball court?
Yeah, I think as Saya indicated earlier, we will continue to monitor the park use. And it's not uncommon for, some of our park amenities to be repurposed for something else. And so that's certainly something that, may be, applicable in the future for this site.
And something that I would like to just add is that not that tennis is not an amenity that was considered in the overall park planning. It was through the park planning process, basketball was identified as a desired use. And although we heard the members at your last Canter Creek community meeting about their concern about the basketball, and that led us to look for alternatives by doing the back-to-back hoops and the lower hoops. There was expressed interest by the surrounding community members and the elected officials to provide basketball as an amenity as originally requested in the design. And so we've tried to work to find a solution that we think will be appropriate for the location and try to balance the different desires for this facility.
The next question is, will park police enforce the no hunting laws in our community, especially since the park is coming?
Yes, the answer to that question is definitely yes. I know one kind resident from Canter Creek had reached out to me. This was sometime last year about noticing people hunting behind her home. And so we have already worked with our park rangers to post our property this past year. So that Stream Valley Park area that I indicated on the map has already been posted by our park rangers. And, our park police has been put on notice as well about the hunting. And so, yeah, they will monitor that.
And I believe I know you've answered this question, but I do want to just share because it's one that has come up several times, and just want to make you aware that there's a concern about the basketball courts, wanting to know who identified the basketball courts. I believe Sonia answered that part of it, but also why is there this deep connection to basketball courts when the Canter Creek community does not want them? I don't know that you have an answer for that at the moment, but I just wanted to make sure you were aware.
I think just one piece that we've kind of acknowledged in the process is that there has at times, and there are at times concern about basketball, but what we understand is that basketball is an important amenity for users in this community. It was one of the amenities that was specifically added to this park when the additional funding was added, and the elected officials in this area validated that request by the citizen groups when we went back and had additional conversations in this process. But it's something that we definitely will continue to monitor. And if it does become an issue of concern when the use is out there on place, we will take action to rectify those concerns.
With regard to the 8 feet height minimum, can it be set to heights appropriate for younger children? I think the 8 feet is for younger kids, right?
Yes, that's accurate.
That's like an elementary school, middle school height. The regulation height is 10 foot.
The plan lists several canopy areas. What does that entail? Trees only or actual canopies?
So right now we're proposing low shrubs and trees for those areas.
And can there be no parking signs on Dressage Drive? I think that's a DPW&T question, right? Or no? In our staff, when we go through the mandatory referral process, that is a comment that will be added to the plans, and we can work with the county agencies to get that no parking on the street on Dressage Drive.
I don't think any new questions have come in yet. Okay, I'll take one more quick look through the questions, just to be sure we didn't miss anyone.
Shonda, I think I saw a question about what is the name of the park, and I don't know if we answered that one.
I think we did, but did we, Don?
I apologize.
Yes, we did. We did indicate Canter Creek Park is the name.
Yeah. As I'm going through, I don't think I missed anything. But we'll hold for a second just in case if someone has a question that they believe I missed.
Shonda, can we remind folks that this recording as well as the presentation will be online? If they want to share with their neighbors, we can, give a notification that it'll be on our front page and they can click in and see this presentation.
Absolutely. There two more questions came in. So one is really an ask for help, is that they've made several requests for no parking and have not been able to get movement on that. So if we can help them, and they ask, can they expect a more definitive answer? Another one is, with the extra funding available, please reconsider using fencing instead of shrubs.
We can take that request into account. We don't have a final cost estimate yet, but we can definitely take that into account. And then we do not take care of parking signs ourselves, but we will definitely work with our sister agency. And I do think that the mandatory referral process will be a great vehicle to have that comment connected to the design plan, which should help have it be executed.
There's one I did miss. The outside grills, to you, since we're saying we are not putting in grills, will there be rules about no outside grills brought into the park?
Yeah, and our park signage may or may not speak to grills, but yeah, there definitely will not be any outside grill use on the terrace or anywhere else in the park. So yeah, we can make sure that we look at that.
And another one was, are there still opportunities to request additional alternative amenities?
At this point, we've kind of vetted the concept with the community and the community at large, and so we were hoping to kind of move forward with the plan as proposed.
Don, would there be, after kind of built the park, would there be an opportunity to add something then?
Oh, great question. Yeah, and so we do entertain additional features at our parks. Our park projects go through what's called our capital improvement program. And so there are opportunities to add features to a park to enhance what is already there. So that would be through our capital improvement program process. And so we have budget forums twice a year that we allow the citizens to come out and speak to additions that they would like to see at their park for consideration.
When will the construction start? I think you mentioned that. Can you say that one more time? So
currently we're expecting to finish up our construction documents and permitting by this winter, early spring 2021. And so we envision or anticipated the construction to start by the summer of 2021 and take approximately 1 year to complete. So we're looking at summer of 2022 for anticipated completion.
And what will the stormwater management facility be fenced?
That's another great question. And Saya, you may have something to share on this. I would say Typically, the stormwater management areas are fenced when they are a little bit deeper than and pose a risk to public safety, especially children and or adults. And I also know with stormwater management facilities, they have what's called a safety bench. So while you may see water, there's a little bit of a gradual effect before you hit the actual full depth. And so that's something we will take into consideration during the environmental assessment as well. And if we feel that a fence should be added around that stormwater management pond, it will be added for sure.
Yeah.
And signage will be posted.
Right, and the county's Department of Permitting Enforcement and Inspection, DPI, will review the drawings and make that determination. Our preliminary recommendation in the plans, we can give you that information and include it when we post the general kind of questions and answers, but I don't have a sense of which facilities in the depth that may require fencing or not.
Will we advertise? How will this park be advertised in the county and in local Upper Marlboro area?
You want me to take that one, Don?
Oh, that's fine. Thank you, son.
Yeah, so we really don't like actually advertise our parks in the way that I think the question may be asking. When we publish our guide, which is mailed just once or twice a year to residents and then post on our online webpage, we do have an inventory of all of our facilities and kind of a listing of the amenities in each park. But that would be the advertising. We're not intending to add major signage to guide people to this location or to do any, formal advertising of this facility. It's not of the size or the scale to do that. And
just to also share from a public relations standpoint, that what Sonia said is really our approach. We typically, when we're advertising about events or activities or whatever, we choose locations where we can attract a larger crowd, and this park just won't facilitate that. It just won't be the type of area where we would want to drive people to, largely not just because of the size either, but also the location is set inside of a community, so we wouldn't want to drive people there, and it's not near like transportation, it's not near a bus line, it's not near a metro station. Like, it doesn't have the ability for us to be able to attract people in a large way. So one of the questions was, will there be a park opening event? If so, what is typically planned for a park opening event? So from a marketing communication standpoint, I would say that it probably would depend on the community, as in the Canter Creek community, whether or not they wanted to have some type of celebration amongst themselves. Again, it's not an area where we would want to actively send people to. Will parking planning offer summer camps at this location? I don't think so, because I don't know that it fits the size we would be looking for. But Don, your thoughts?
No, and that's a great response, Shonda. And typically, our park summer playgrounds are near elementary schools or some of our community centers. So yeah, this definitely would not be a site for that.
We usually look for locations where there are bathrooms and other facilities to support our summer camps and our summer playgrounds. And so that would really prohibit this site from being used for that type of use.
Will construction use contracted or county staff? So I think she's asking basically who's going to do the work.
Yeah, that's another great question. So this project will be, formally bid, and so it will be a general contractor will provide those services. It will not be staff of the commission that are installing these amenities.
And I think there were some questions about speed limit posting near or around the park.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to Sonia's earlier comment regarding Dressage Drive, and that would be a discussion we'd have to have with our sister agency, DPW&T, Department of Public Works and Transportation. As far as the park itself, once you're there, you're at that destination, so there shouldn't be any speeding in the parking lot, ideally.
And again, that's another great comment that could be submitted during the mandatory referral process, and it will alert those county agencies to be aware about the traffic or speed interests and concerns. And then also, those are also items that the HOA can look to address.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what you stated, Saya, I'm also aware that there's some ATV concerns in the Canter Creek community right now, and so that's another item that when our park police are on site or monitoring or going through the community, hopefully that activity will be curtailed as well.
So did you ask this question, Sonia? Until then, do you do anything to beautify the park?
That was one of the residents' questions. We do not have intentions to do any interim improvements on the site. Part of the delay with the kind of revisiting the plan has kind of led to some of the visual concerns on the site. I think if there's an opportunity maybe to do some high level mowing, we could consider it, but we wouldn't do anything that would incur a significant cost.
So I got a question that's asked, do we have information on the number of participants, neighborhoods represented? And I'm not sure if she's meeting for this particular meeting. So if she is, I can share that about 30 participants have joined. And the only neighborhood represented is Canter Creek. We only share this with the Canter Creek community, or the Canter Creek neighborhood, not the areas around it.
That's correct.
And that was, you know, kind of at you all's earlier request. We have been in contact with the residents, and their feedback was that they had been through, you know, planning processes, had understood, you know, that their items had been kind of heard, and that we were making adjustments to the plan, giving you all's input, and they just asked us to follow up with them, given our final decisions after meeting with you all. One thing that I was just asked to share by staff is that to reach the park police in a non-emergency, the phone number is 301-459-9088. And then if there's an emergency, you can always call 911, but park police are also at 301-459-3232. And that's, you know, of course, also on our website.
And then one last thing is just a comment was like, as a compromise, can we have a half basketball court and one tennis court? I mean,
you know, I wish that were possible because you may be on to something.
Yes. Let's just think about it, Dawn. Let's just think about it.
That's something that, you know, we've have had some discussions on, and we would have to kind of check back with the elected officials just to get their feedback, and members of our board. And so we will take that back. The good thing about what we're moving forward to permit is that the changing of fixtures is, and that's what we're talking about on that asphalt court area, is something that is possible. But we do want to move forward with getting permits and kind of moving forward with the design and construction on the park so we can get this amenity in place. So we definitely will take that into account and have future discussions about how that court is actually painted and fitted out. But as of now, the feedback we've gotten with our conversations over the last 6 months is that they would like for us to move forward with the basketball courts, and that they felt that the mini courts were an acceptable compromise.
So Sonia, I'm sharing because I was asked that for the record, they understand what the neighboring communities' concerns are. However, they are the ones with the park. So I just want to say that just for the record, per their request.
Yeah, and I understand how they feel, and I would say for the record, we all are with the ones with the park. This is a community serving park that services a number of neighborhoods. And prior to the development of the Canter Creek neighborhood, those surrounding communities really pushed together to request from their elected officials and the developer in order to garner their support, a series of amenities. And we have worked with them along with you all on a series of compromises. And I would say it is extremely reasonable, especially since we've removed the permitted fields, to consider an amenity that they felt was important when they supported the development of this community. So we definitely hear you. We've heard you, and we've taken your voices into a number of conversations. And I think that we've really worked to, again, kind of thread the needle and come up with a compromise plan. And then we also have committed to monitoring when this facility goes in place to make sure that it is an asset to your community, as our parks typically are.
So the 2 more questions, and then I think we'll wrap up. One is, can the other neighborhoods counter this proposal? So can not Holloway Estates, but was Williamsburg? I mean, I'm blanking, my mind's blanking, but can those 2 communities counter this proposal?
If it's left.
Look at the dollar store. I can just come over here.
Oh,
Yeah.
somebody needs to.
You're getting a little feedback.
Yep.
I think at this point, from speaking with the leadership at both of those communities, and from them hearing the conversations that have been ongoing over the last few months, they understood that there was a series of compromises that were going to happen, and they were generally supportive of the compromises that were going to take place. And so at this point, I do not believe that they will come up with any changes, and our intention is to move forward with the plan as presented today.
And then the next question was about the water features. Can it be like fountains, ponds, etc., to kind of beautify the walking trails?
Not at this time, and one of the things we did take into consideration, in addition to the infrastructure costs, is that there's not an intention to make this a significant draw. And so we would want to, make a major walking facility in the center of that what is to be an open play field.
All righty. I think we got everybody. I think we got all the questions. So I will just share again that we will post this on our website, pgparks.com. Once we update the PowerPoint, the presentation, because Don, one of the requests was in the presentation, it doesn't really give the dates like you were given the dates. So if we could update the presentation to ensure that the dates are included. Once we do that, we'll post it on, there's a Canter Creek page created already, or we need to create one?
Yeah, we'll create one for them. Yeah.
Awesome. So once that's created, we will then send out the link via the way we informed people about how to join this meeting, as well as share it with the HOA or representative to ensure that the presentation is shared with the community broadly. And then And there's just one last request. Let's please continue to keep the community informed as this process moves forward, and we commit to doing so.
Definitely so.
All righty.
Great job, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All righty, Don, you want to give me any last thoughts before we sign off?
No, I just want to thank the community once again for taking time out to kind of lend us an ear tonight and hear the proposals that we have planned for the new park amenity. We're excited to be your neighbors, and we feel this is going to be a great asset to your community. That all generations will be able to enjoy this facility, and so we're glad to partner with you all on this, and looking forward to delivering a quality, a high-end product for you all. And thank you for your time.
Oh, and one last thing, just as a reminder to everyone, this community meeting was also recorded. So part of posting the presentation will also include posting the meeting. So for your neighbors who weren't able to participate, they'll still be able to look in on it and hear the questions that were asked and the answers that were provided. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We look forward to coming back to you, talking to you soon about the progress that's being made on the park, and we look forward to staying in touch with you. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening, all. Thank you.